As part of We the People, celebrating 250 years, here's this day in history.
Welcome back. As we count down to America's 250th birthday this summer, we're sharing our We the People series, the people, places, and things of the past that have shaped our country into what it is today. What do we got today, Delaney?
Yeah, on this day, April 19th, back in 1852, a bill was passed by the state legislature for the establishment and maintenance of a school for children who are deaf in Walworth County. So on this day, 1839, Ebenezer Cheesebro, I think is how you say it, moved his family from New York to the Delavan, Wisconsin area. The Cheesebro family had a daughter, Ariadna, who was deaf and had attended the New York Institute for the Deaf and Dumb. In 1850, the Cheesebros family hired wealthy Hawes to teach their daughter and neighbor boy who was also deaf. They lived nearby. They were hard of hearing as well and the graduate of the New York Institute. So over the years, the school grew to 8 children. The family then decided that they could no longer afford to privately finance the education of their daughter and the other students. And in 1852, with the help of their friends and neighbors, they submitted a petition to the state to establish a school for the deaf. And on this day, April 19th, the governor signed the law to dedicate state money for the School of the Deaf. So a big day for kind of furthering the education for different groups of people, especially those who are hard of hearing. My mom is an audiologist, so kind of hits close to home. So that's a neat thing for us here locally in Wisconsin.
Yeah, that is so sweet. Obviously, education looked a lot different back then, but paved the way for the care and facilities that we have today.
Yeah. And this Wisconsin School for the Deaf has been in continuous operation since its founding and has operated since 1939 as a bureau of the State Department of Public Instruction. The school is a part of the state system of public education and as such has the same standards as those set forth by the Department of Public Instruction for all schools in Wisconsin. So yeah, big day in Wisconsin history on this April 19th.
All right, Delaney.